From the crack of dawn to the campfire at night. Whether you're in the woods, on the water, or just dreaming about your next adventure, you're in the right place. This is Tailgate Outdoors.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tailgate Outdoors right here on Sports Talk 105.1 and 790 AM. And since it's Saturday morning, happy opener, bow hunters, deer hunters out there. It is the opener, so maybe you're listening to us right now, maybe back at camp or coming in for breakfast, or maybe you're driving out to the woods and such, or maybe you're going to be heading out later on this afternoon for an early evening hunt, whatever the case may be. Best of luck if you're heading out to the woods. It's time now, and to help us break it all down and talk about it, nobody better than our good friend Tim. How you doing there this morning, Tim?
Good, Dan. How are you?
You ready? Is this now bow season, rifle season? Is it bow season for you?
Bow season all the way, yeah. I mean, rifle season's got a special place in my heart. You got the classic deer camp stuff, but when it comes to pure hunting, pure deer hunting, it's bow season.
Exactly. So we made it. We're finally here. And we've got lots to discuss, though, for the opener. And let's just jump right into it if you're ready to go, man.
Let's do it. Yeah, we've been talking about this for a month and a half.
I know. It's like all that preparation kind of. Now this is game time, right? Yeah. It's like training camp or preseason. Now it's kind of game time with this. So, one thing I was just kind of curious before we kind of get into it, how much, because I think this is probably something a lot of hunters go through, the weather, and it's too warm to go sit out there. Are they even moving if it's too warm or anything like that? But on the flip side, it's like, well, you're not going to get one sitting on the couch though either, right? So, I mean, do you factor in how warm it is when you go out hunting and such, or not really?
Yeah, it can be a little warm early season. It's warm. It's warm this year. It's too bad it wasn't last week because it was nice and cool.
Right.
So sure, that can come into account with the fact that maybe deer aren't going to be moving quite as early, or maybe not moving quite as far. But the reality is, they still need to eat. They still need to get up and get drinks. They still need to do what they do on a daily basis. They've been doing it all summer, and it's not going to stop just because it's a little warm for us to be in the trees. So So it's not a reason to not be out there.
Yeah, exactly. So what is kind of the hunting strategy? Because, I mean, this is the first time, and you've probably been pre-planning everybody hunting-wise and that, but, I mean, now we've got, like, hunters going into the woods, and maybe, it's kind of maybe messing up the movement of the patterns or deer for a little bit or something like that, but, like, how aggressive maybe should these hunters be? And maybe with the warmer weather, does morning or evening matter in the early season? I guess first off, how aggressive should we be in the early parts? Because now things are going to start to change a little bit.
Yeah. I think there's two paths here. So if you say, Tim, I've got this buck on camera right now that I want to go after, and he's doing something pretty consistently. Maybe he's hitting the same food plot at the same time every night or a couple nights a week. In those kind of cases, I'd advise you to go in and be aggressive and hunt that deer now, because you alluded to it. As people start to get into the woods, they're going to start to feel that pressure, and they're going to start to change some of those patterns. So if you have this small window of the first couple days of the season where they don't quite know that shift has happened yet, that may be your best chance all year to actually get close to that deer. So there are certainly cases when you want to be aggressive early season, and that's probably the biggest one. But in general, if you don't maybe have that target buck totally picked out yet, then I'm saying let's be a little more cautious. And the way I tell my clients is we want to hunt our properties from outside to in. And what I mean by that is we start the season with our lowest impact stands near the border of our property or near the closest to our access points.
Okay.
So we're going to hunt from there. And then slowly as the season moves on, as we get more intel, as deer start to move more, we can kind of move closer to their core areas without worrying about bumping them out and ruining the rest of the season.
So when in terms of morning and evening, this is something I think everybody goes through every year. A lot of times, when I'm trying to think of it, it's like, dude, I'd rather sleep in, this morning, give me the night hunt and that. But, I mean, is there a big difference between the two, and how much does that preseason scouting kind of factor into that?
Yeah, well, you're going to like my answer if you like to sleep in. In the early season, I'm always more of a proponent of evening hunts.
Okay.
Morning hunts, it's not there are no absolutes, right? Morning hunts, there's times when they can be effective, but you are running the risk with morning hunts of doing some extra damage. As in the consideration here is deer are going to be closer. Those food sources are going to be closer to their bedding areas. They're getting into those areas a little sooner in the morning, and so you risk bumping deer on the way in. Or let's say you do get in, then when you have to get back out and those deer have now moved closer to you, you can bump them there too. So morning hunts, make sure you're not right on a food source for sure, because you're going to blow those out. And make sure if you are going to be in a stand in the morning that you have like bulletproof access on the way back out. And otherwise, though, evenings is really the thing to do this time of year. So whether that's, your traditional food sources, your ag fields, your bean fields, alfalfa, soybean fields, otherwise, your food plots, your water holes, those are great spots to set up for the evening hunts this time of year. And as long as you're able to get in and out, you can hunt those repeatedly.
And you mentioned it a little bit too, but the importance of those access routes within, that's something I think the common theme we've probably brought up every time you've been on, and such as that's something you just keep hammering home now too, is those access points and just the importance maybe for the early part of the bow season too. Yeah,
and I think especially if you're going to be on food sources, realize that you can get into that stand really easily, right? The deer are still in their bedding areas. But when it's time to get down at the end of the night, I'm sure you've had the times where there's 4 or 5 does sitting in front of you, and you're like, would they just please leave so I can get out of the stand?
Yep.
And then you're stuck. Do I get down and blow them out? That's where sometimes just being a little further off the food source, maybe even if you're just 10 yards into the woods as opposed to right on the field edge, that might be that little extra help that you can, use that little extra screen to get out of the woods without alerting every deer.
This might be kind of I don't know if it'd be a weird question, but okay, is it possible? Am I going to see a mature buck? Can I get my trophy buck right away opening day? Because everybody talks about the rut, right? I mean, that's when you get it. It's later season. It's a little bit colder and such, but And does a lot of that factor into if you were doing the preseason scouting and kind of what you were alluding to a little bit earlier, where you can get that target buck right away?
Yeah, absolutely. It's during the rut. Everybody's that's what you think of killing a big buck, and you can, and there's going to be deer moving, no doubt. But if you're targeting one specific buck, and you talk to guys who kill a lot of big bucks, some of their favorite times are the first 4 or 5 days of the season. I mentioned, because those deer maybe don't feel the human pressure yet.
Right.
But also because as deer get older, it's funny, they seem to stick to the same routine kind of day in and day out or year in and year out.
Okay.
So if you can start to really hone in on a certain travel route they take, something that I'll do is if there's a specific buck I'm after, pay attention to the direction he came on a certain wind direction, right? Is he moving south to north when the wind is going north to south, so he's walking into the wind? Is it a temperature thing? Does he seem to move more? I've seen certain deer that love to move more right after a rainstorm, especially with target bucks like that. Pay attention to those little details, and you keep a log if you want to, but using all that information, whether that's from previous years, whether that's from this season's preseason scouting, that early season can be an awesome time to get that mature buck.
So speaking of kind of, scouting and finding deer and such, maybe this is the first time a lot of hunters are able to get out there, and hit their stands or do anything out there. So, I mean, what would you recommend? I don't know if maybe it's, somebody's, hey, I just hunt public land. It's the first time I'm able to get out there and such, any tips to, is it too late to maybe do some scouting at this point? What would you kind of recommend for helping maybe find some deer right now that the season is upon us?
Yeah, well, we'll talk public land first. I think in that case, absolutely, you can get out there, get on the ground and scout. Maybe you do an afternoon hunt and you scout your way in. You start maybe at noon instead of getting out there at 3 or 4 o'clock. Start at noon and just slowly walk through the woods, looking for sign, looking for trails, trying to pick up on maybe not only what the deer are doing, but where other hunters have been, so you can start to kind of chart that out and just kind of move through the woods until you find an area that you like. Set up there, make sure there's good visibility, and kind of use it as an observation sit. And that's what I would recommend to somebody who's on private land is instead of trying to get in and kill a deer, in a spot maybe you've killed them in the past, if you haven't been able to do any scouting, get in an area where you can get in and out very easily, a little closer to those access points like I mentioned, but pick a spot where you can see a long ways. Maybe you can observe a bedding area, or maybe you can observe a food source, and just start to kind of take a mental log of where deer are coming and going from. Is there a specific spot they're entering or leaving a field? Do you notice that maybe bucks move in one trail into the field and does move on another trail? Well, that might clue you into later on in the season. That same buck travel route might be something you do want to set up on. So, it's not just trail cameras. If you haven't been out there much, you can just kind of slowly move from the outside in on your property, kind of noting things along the way.
Exactly. How big is it to find to feed off the bedding areas, maybe specifically for does and such? Is that something crucial this time of year? Maybe more so when again, when we get closer to the rut where everything's kind of moving and they're chasing everything, I mean, how important is bedding areas right now, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's always important to know where they are. If we know where deer bed, where they travel, and where they eat, you've got them figured out, right? And I know it's not always that simple, but that's the formula. So this time of year, it's not actionable in that you're going to go hunt in those bedding areas or near them, but certainly start to know where they are, mark them out on a map, kind of see if you can see patterns as far as where they are and where routes might be between, because that's the information you need to know come October, November, when those bucks are moving between those areas. So it's more of just good to know right now than it is hunt it.
Right. So would that kind of relate to, so say like on my trail camera, as I come to you and like, Tim, I've got a lot of deer on my trail cameras, but they're all does right now. Would that be something that may be beneficial later on when those bucks try to find those does? Like, okay, I've got a spot that obviously does are traveling and going through. Like, I may be frustrated a little bit at the beginning part because I don't have a lot of bucks on there, but I got a lot of does. Would patience kind of serve me well a little bit? Because, okay, that might be a good spot maybe for later in the season?
100%. Yeah,
okay,
stay patient with that. If you have an area that's got a lot of does in it, yes, you're going to start to see bucks at some point during the year. But also pay attention to what that area is. Is it a big food source? Well, sometimes those bucks are going to stay to the edges or just into the cover. They're going to behave a little different than those does. So just because you don't see them on your camera doesn't mean they're not close by. And so that's where those observation sits may help you capture a little more information or see something that your cameras don't see. So don't just rule it out just because you're only seeing something on camera.
I think that's part of my problem, and maybe for like a lot of people too. Like, that camera only covers one trail, one side of the trail, one small area. We don't know what's behind it. We don't know what's maybe just 2 feet to the right of it. You know, it's that. And that's something I got to keep reminding myself a lot about too is, sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I just didn't have a trail camera, because then I get in. I think we've talked about this before. Yeah. It's like, well, something's not showing up. Do I even want to go out?
Yeah.
Then that's the day they probably do show up on the trail camera.
Yeah.
So it's like a double-edged sword with trail cameras at times, especially the ones that get texted to your phone and I'm just sitting there refreshing and constantly looking at it too. So
they're awesome. They're addicting. They're great to have, and they are a good tool. But I know we talked about it before. Cameras should only be a reason to go hunting. They should never be a reason to stay out of the woods, because they are capturing such a small amount of space. I actually did a little experiment, and I'm sure you've been there too. You've like, that camera can't be taking all the pictures, right? You talk to anybody, they're like, no, it can't be. And so I put 2 cameras this summer up on the same post. 2 different brands, both good brands, and just did a comparison of, are they taking the exact same pictures? And it was amazing to see, this deer walks through at 12:20 and one camera took the picture and one just missed it. And then the other one took it wasn't like one camera was clear better than the other, but it was just a reminder that these cameras aren't perfect. They don't catch everything. And so you need to be in the woods to really get the full picture of what's happening.
Right. Maybe a good reminder, too, if you do get lucky on opening weekend, and because it is going to be a little bit warmer, too, and I like the note you said there, plan ahead in case you do get that deer, right? You don't want to jinx it like, I'm superstitious. I can't say that I'm going to get a deer, I'm planning it. But you have to when it comes to the weather like this.
Yes.
Right? And that's mostly taking care of the deer afterwards.
Yeah.
Right?
It is a good time to get a deer, whether it's your target buck or sometimes you want to fill the freezer with the doe right away, and there's nothing wrong with that. But 80-degree weather, if it gets down to 60 at night, there's not a lot of time there. You can let that deer lay.
Yep.
Plan ahead. A couple things you want to do. Make sure, first of all, talk to whoever you usually take your deer to and make sure, hey, they're going to be open that night. So can I drop a deer off at 10, 11 o'clock at night and can't sit in the back of your truck till morning? 2, make sure, and I think this is an important one, is find somebody local or somewhat local who does deer recovery or tracking. Personally, I'm a big drone guy now.
I was just going to ask you that. Yeah, because you see that's really, in the last few years, has really kind of spiked up in popularity.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Had a really cool experience with a buck that my dad shot last year where we used a drone to find it. And we were fortunate. It took 15 minutes from the time the drone went up to the time we found it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it could have taken my dad and I a couple of hours to find that deer. And in that kind of weather, maybe you lose some meat. And that's not what you want, obviously, when you get an animal. So have somebody that you can get a hold of that will be able to make it up and help you track that deer that night if you're having trouble finding it. So just those little things to have prepared ahead of time. I'm with you on the superstition thing, but it doesn't hurt to be prepared.
Right. And I've always been like, I remember when I was younger, one of my favorite things was always tracking.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think a lot of it was going through areas I've never seen before in the woods, and just it's kind of almost you're exploring a little bit. I didn't care if it was my deer, I didn't care if it was somebody else's deer. I loved tracking so much, and I'm curious. I've never tried the drone one. I mean, dogs, with that, I've seen that too. We've gone through that, but I've never tried the drone one. But that is definitely, I've had a lot of people talk about that, and now I see signs all over. Yeah, like these little ones in the country and that, and people have chimed in with their services too. And I've seen videos of it. I mean, I know, I got to imagine, I know there's been some like, well, do some people use it the wrong way or such, but I mean, to help find that deer, that's the ultimate thing, right? We don't want that deer to go to waste. We don't want that, because it's going to happen, right? We're probably going to have a bad shot.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens to everybody, regardless of what the internet sleuths out there try to say that they're perfect every time. Sometimes it's going to be a bad shot, and you just need a little bit of extra help to find that deer. And that's what those services do.
You said it perfectly. The end goal is we don't want to have this animal go to waste. And so I totally agree. There's a lot of debates out there on technology and what's ethical. But at the end of the day, if it helps recover an animal, and we're using technology to do that, I don't see anything wrong with that. An animal that's been wounded, of course.
Right.
And it's great because with drones, two things they can do that, and I'm not against dog tracking. That's great too. But I think the things I really love about drone recovery are, number one, you can cover so much ground so quickly. So when minutes matter, you can really do that. And then two, if it's, hey, I shot a doe, I don't want to blow up the middle of my property and walk through the whole thing looking for this deer. It's a little lower impact until you actually find the animal.
And that's where I was going to kind of ask too, like, especially, if it's public land or maybe the border to next to somebody and you're not trudging around their property or maybe in somebody else's hunt too, right? You could cover that area with that drone instead of just kind of meandering around a little bit and kicking everything up at that point.
Exactly. And then maybe if you do need to call that neighbor, you can say, hey, I know the deer's down, right? And that helps that conversation instead of just, hey, can I wander around for 2 hours to hopefully find it?
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm definitely like, if I get in that situation, I'd definitely like to try it out. And especially too, like you mentioned a little bit earlier with the weather. I mean, there's how many times, with the rain, and then you're just like rushing and trying to find that thing before it's too late. So as we get set, and maybe some people have already sat, this morning, if they're listening to this right now, and that, what are some other maybe tips that you would have for, like, just maybe not for opening weekend, but maybe for the first couple of weeks of the bow hunting season? Because leaves are still up, right? A lot of things are going to look different once those leaves start to fall. Does that impact anything? I mean, what else would you kind of, just general tips you'd give everybody else out there?
Yeah. The number one thing I would say is just whatever you do in the woods, just take note of it. I even keep a little hunting journal because there's little things you can pick up on throughout the year that are going to inform your decisions later on. And so just be very observant out there and be patient. It doesn't have to happen in the first week or two of the season. You just said things are going to change quickly. So enjoy your time out there, and more than anything, just be paying attention to what's happening around you and try to find any little advantage that you can have later on in the year.
Do you have any... we talked a little bit about it earlier. Do you have any superstitions or traditions when it comes to bow? Like, I'm really big in rifle. I don't know if I have one for bow, but for deer gun season, I do. Do you have any for bow season?
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about that. I've got every year I pick out a song I've got to listen to.
That's
in the
right.
truck.
Yes. Did you pick out the song?
I don't have one yet.
Dude, time's running out.
I know. So I got to figure it out. Usually, though, it's just, you're playing, you got your playlist going, and all of a sudden you hit one, and you're like, okay, this is it for this year. So I'll get it on the way tonight.
All right.
That'll be it.
There, I like that. Yeah. So do you have any, like, when you get set for the season, too, do you have any, like, goals or expectations when you head in, or does a lot of it depend on what you saw from your pre-scouting and such? I mean, do you set those type of expectations or goals? Because I feel like at times if you don't get it, then does that deter the person from going out there? What are you like personally with that?
Yeah, I've tried to move away from just having it be binary, either like I kill the deer, I don't kill the deer. Because the reality is, for most of us, if we're trying to kill a specific deer, it's not going to happen every single year.
Right.
And so I've really tried to look at it as more of a process. There was 2 years ago, there was a buck I was after, and I had kind of figured out what was happening during the rut. I set up in a spot that I thought was good as the first time I sat there. And he came through right where I wanted him to, and I went to draw back, and I bumped my release, and my arrow fell down. I watched him walk away, the neighbor shot him like 3 days later.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Now, that like could have wrecked me, and I'm not going to lie, I was pretty upset for a couple days. But
Yeah.
I look at that now in hindsight as like that was a successful season in that I made the proper scouting observations. I put the setup together correctly for the wind direction, and the deer that I wanted to get did come past me. And whether that's bumping the arrow off or maybe that deer walked 45 yards and you can only shoot to 35, it doesn't have to mean that was a failure. So I try to look at it as more of a challenge of putting those puzzle pieces together. And if I was successful at that every year, put myself in good positions, the rest is just up to, a little bit of chance, right? We can't control all variables. So
Right.
I'd really try to look at it that way.
So do you have a favorite bow hunting memory?
Ooh, favorite bow hunting memory. Good question. I would say it was the first deer my dad or I ever took with a bow. It was my dad shot a buck. And this was probably 20 years ago, but it was like before that, I was like, can this even be done? Right. And so he had called me up. I got to go track it with him. Like you said, that was a fun part of it, tracking it, taking out. And that, those firsts are always my favorite.
Yeah, definitely. Man, I can remember the first one I missed.
Never forget that.
Yeah, I feel like some of those just really stand out more than some of the others. Or like some of the ones I didn't even get to take a shot at, but I can still remember them like walking by or just some of the biggest deer I've seen. And it's just those memories just stick to me more than I think than a lot of stuff. Like those, the ones that got away or the ones that didn't quite get there. I feel like obviously the biggest ones I've seen I've never had a shot at, but it's in the first two. I still remember finally getting my first one after being very frustrated the first couple of years.
Yep.
And whether it was a bad shot or complete misses, just then finally getting that first one. It wasn't the biggest one, but you felt like I was in high school at the time, so I was like I was pumped up. I was excited. Before I even got my driver's license. It was like the week before that, so it was a good couple weeks. So, but it's those firsts that are just, I don't know. And sitting in a deer stand for bow season to me is the ultimate like life cleanser, if you will.
Absolutely. Put the phone down, enjoy the weather. Maybe you're checking the Badger or Packer score, but other than that, staying off the phone. I just think archery season especially, you mentioned just seeing some of these big deer. You just get to see a lot more because you're in the woods longer.
Yep.
Deer seem to be moving a little bit with less pressure. It's just a great opportunity to learn and to enjoy time in the woods.
Really quick, do you have a favorite cover scent? Do you use cover scent?
That's a whole can of worms. Man. That's a whole can of worms. I usually I use Nose Jammer.
Okay.
And I wash all my clothes in scent killer. I'm not like a brand specific guy, but
yeah,
I don't know. The science is kind of all over the place. But I'll say I'll try anything if it can give me a 1% edge. So I'll do it all.
I'll take some pine needles and rub it all over, something like that. I mean, I remember one time I had my tote and I just threw in leaves and branches in there. And, left it in the back of the truck. But
then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Uncle Gary who's drinking coffee and smoking a half-pack cigarettes, and then he shoots the biggest buck of all of us. So
exactly,
I don't know. I'm not sure what to say. I believe in scent control, but I also know that sometimes you can't. You can't control everything.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that frustrates the heck out of me too. So
I want to be clear. I don't have an Uncle Gary.
I don't either.
That's hypothetical.
Actually, I do have it,
okay,
but he doesn't go hunting, so we're good there.
No Gary's thrown under the bus there.
No, we're good. So, well, Tim, before I let you go, best of luck.
You as well.
We'll have to keep. You're going to be on every couple weeks here, so we'll keep posted on everybody's hunting seasons and such. And
let's have some success, and maybe we can do a breakdown of what went right for one of us. How about that?
You know what? Tell you what, I'll make a deal with you too. I'm going to start making notes this year too.
Do it,
and then we can kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, compare
when
some
we're
notes.
on it. Yeah, exactly.
Just great.
I used to do that for fishing when I was like really big into it in high school. So I think I'll do that now.
Good.
Just you're my mentor right now.
There we go. There we go.
Again, if anybody is interested though, before I let you go, getting a hold of you, how should they go about it? For consulting.
Whitetailpartners.com is our website. You can also get me on social media, Facebook. You look up Tim Kaiser, Whitetail Partners, Instagram if you're there. But yeah, we're happy to help out. We're booking right now, already getting some bookings for right after hunting season this year and into next spring. So if it's something you're thinking about doing, this would be the time to start reaching out.
Perfect. Awesome. Tim, best of luck. Be safe. And we'll talk to you again soon, bud.
Thanks, Dan.